Hello, beautiful alchemist. Welcome to Reiki Radio. I am your host, Yolanda, and I am very excited about this week because we have our guest, Gwen Allison from My Spiritual Butterfly, who will be spending the entire week with us here on Reiki Radio. But she is also one of the contributors on the new platform, thereikiclass.com, which features a new podcast called Awakening Airwaves. And her debut episode will be this Friday. So be sure to check it out. But this week here on Reiki Radio, Gwen is sharing some juicy nuggets with us. The conversation you will hear today is all about her recent pilgrimage to Kyoto, Japan. And I really love the way she paints a really clear picture for those of us who have never been. But even if you have been, you may pick up on some things that maybe you didn't realize while you were there. She has beautiful experiences. She really breaks down the detail that helps us to understand some of the cultural reference that we may even recognize within the system of Reiki. She talks about her time and some interesting adventures in Tokyo as well. So I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. It is quite interesting. And I want to thank Gwen for making the time to chat with us. She and I just had a 3 hour conversation. So I really appreciate that she took the time. So just to keep you on track with the unfolding, on Wednesday, you can tune in again to hear Gwen and I talk about intuition and Reiki psychic development, how Reiki points to our intuition, and how this goes beyond session, but really also supports the ways that we're guiding ourselves in our day-to-day lives. And then we round out the week this Friday talking about relationships and our spirituality and how we have some interesting encounters and choices and realizations when we are doing these spiritual practices and work and start shifting even around the energy of relationship in our lives. So we talk all about that on Friday as a prelude to her episode on Awakening Airwaves. So you can find all of the ways to connect with Gwen down in the show description. Her personal website is myspiritualbutterfly.com. If you are in the UK, you can study with Gwen. Her Reiki classes are held in person there, but she also has some incredible classes online as well. And she has one upcoming. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to thereikiclass.com, and under the events section, you will see her upcoming workshop that will be held in the UK, but you can also find her monthly Reiki shares that are free and available online. So a lot for you to dive into. I think that is it for now. I did want to remind you as well, another beautiful member of our community, Natalie Jasper, she just published a book called Infinite Light that features 21 conversations with different Reiki master teachers and practitioners who she has interviewed on her podcast. So be sure to check that out. And Natalie is also featured on the Reiki class website as well. So I hope that you all are ready to dive into all things Reiki and Gwen's trip to Japan. And I will see you on the other side. Okay, everyone, we're here today with the beautiful Gwen Allison of My Spiritual Butterfly. Hello, darling. How are you?
Hello, my darling. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm really excited to talk to you because, fortunately, I've gotten a wonderful opportunity of getting to know you in this past year. We've met quite a bit in the background and we've been doing some more work together recently. So
Mm.
I'm very excited to sit and have this conversation, and I can't wait to hear about your trip to Japan.
I know it's exciting. I can't wait. It's lovely to be here, Yolanda. Thank you. I'm looking forward to having a really long chat about Japan and everything else today. Yeah, but thank you for inviting me back on.
Yes, of course. Well, this is the thing that's interesting. I think we should probably preface it with there are quite a few Reiki practitioners that have either already or really would like to make the pilgrimage, I guess you would say, to Japan and
Mhm.
visit different sites that are associated with Reiki and Yusui
Mm.
Sensei. And so, before we get to your actual trip and what you experienced, could you talk a little bit about the decision leading up to this? And is it something that you've been wanting to do for a while?
Yeah, I think ever since I started teaching Reiki, which is probably 2018, and obviously in Reiki 1, we go through the history, and Reiki 2, I read or show the students Mikao Yusui's memorial stone in
Mhm.
terms of what's written on there, just to
Yeah.
kind of bring it back to him a little bit more and pay reverence to him. And I always show a picture. I get my iPad out. I found a picture on Google, and it's this lady just sitting next to the memorial stone, really tall memorial stone, just so they can see the perspective. And in my mind, I always said, okay, that'll be me one day. I think that'll be me one day. So I always kind of wanted to go and then replace that picture with a picture of me one day. But I don't know if it was because of the time of year. I don't know. It was I had all these assumptions about what Japan would be like. I didn't think I would understand everything. I thought that everything, all the signs and everything else would be in Japanese. So although I wanted to go, I thought it'd be really busy, for example, in Tokyo, like tall skyscrapers and really overcrowded and really claustrophobic. So although I wanted to go on the pilgrimage to visit the memorial stone, I also wanted to go to Mount Karama. But again, I thought that would be really rugged and rough terrain and nothing much to see there. And I had to really psych myself up to think about going there, but I wanted to do it because I thought it'd be energy wise, I thought it'd be really kind of spiritual and really high energy, but I was expecting it to be really uninviting. But yeah, but I remember saying to my students years later, yeah, 2025, I'm going to go, 2025. And then it wasn't actually until October that I actually booked it. October before I went in the April, so just October last year. And I was planning a solo trip and I've never been on a solo trip before. I've been away for a couple of days on my own, but I've never been anywhere for that long, like 2 weeks, 10 days. But I knew it was the right decision because I booked it and I just felt really happy. I
Wow.
felt really, yeah, it wasn't buyer's remorse. It wasn't like, oh my God, what have I done? I'm going to be on my own. I really felt excited about it. So I knew it was the right decision. But yeah, I had all these assumptions about what it was going to be like based on God knows what. I don't know, maybe movies I'd seen or something. I don't know. But I was pleasantly surprised when I went there, which I'll explain. But yeah, yeah, that's kind of yeah. So it was always on my bucket list, I think, ever since I discovered Reiki
Well,
and
it's
started teaching
interesting
it.
hearing you describe that, knowing that you
Mm.
also are big on, law of attraction and these things. And to
Yeah.
say like you had this image and you would envision it being you there and talking about
Yeah.
it. And then actually, making the step to say, I'm just going to book in and see what
Mm.
happens. Really interesting too that you went alone because a lot of people tend to go like on these group excursions where they are, led through whatever the experience is there. So, how did you plan this out? Like, aside from knowing you wanted to go to the memorial stone, were there other areas that you wanted to see, or did you just wait till you got there?
Well, I didn't end up going on my own in the end.
Hmm.
So I'd booked it intending to go on my own. This year, one of my good friends was also celebrating a big birthday. And just before I booked it, she was inviting me to Zimbabwe. She'd always wanted to see Victoria Falls and invited me to go with her. And I was umming and ahhing about it. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, I may as well go to Japan. So that's when I booked it. And then, once she realized I'd booked it like a couple of months later, she was like, oh, I'm going to come with you. So she did come with me. And what was good, I didn't actually, apart from booking the flight, I kind of left it for a couple of months and then booked the hotels, left it for a couple of months. And I didn't actually plan my itinerary until like a month before I went. I knew where I wanted to go in terms of Mount Karama, Mount Fuji, definitely on my list. I was watching loads of YouTube videos, some great videos out there, guys, on Japan. So I had a long list of places that I wanted to visit. But I needed to narrow that down because there's so much that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But my so I definitely wanted to do, as I said, Mount Fuji, Mount Kurama, visit the Memorial Stone, was looking into that. And then I did 3 days in Tokyo, 4 days in Kyoto, and then 2 days in Tokyo to fly back to the UK. And there was loads that I wanted to do in Kyoto, so much. I definitely want to go back there. There's so much to do there. So just kind of watching the YouTube videos and making little notes about what I wanted to visit, where I wanted to visit, and then really fine tuning that and creating my little itinerary. I've got a couple of students who've been to Japan before I'd gone, and one of my students kindly sent me what she did, and also some advice, around the trains. And even things like, that their customs over there, like there's no bins, so you carry your litter with you, you
Mm.
don't eat on the street. So
Yeah.
all these little things that I didn't really know about, as well as how to get around and use the trains and the bullet train and the tube. So I sort of worked off her itinerary. Her name's Sharon. Hi, Sharon. She's watching this. So that kind of gave me a head start. It meant I didn't have to start from scratch completely. But watching the YouTube videos and just getting an idea, oh, that looks really nice. I want to go there. I want to go to the Thousand Gate Temple. I want to see the cherry blossoms if I can. And so various parks I wanted to visit, the Golden Temple. I don't know if you've ever seen images of that. I wanted to visit the Golden Temple. A lot of these things were in Kyoto. So I had my little itinerary, and the universe served me up a really good lesson because everything I was doing was spiritual. I was going to the shrines and the temples on my little itinerary. And then my friend coming along, she's like, okay, I'm going to send you what I want to do. And I'm like, okay. And it was all the things. It was like, okay, we're going to go to this ninja restaurant. We're going to go go-karting through Tokyo. We're going to go to a nightclub. We're going to do this. And at first I was like, I don't want to do it. And I was like, actually, no, chill. It's going to be good. It's a nice balance,
Balance.
a nice balance. And I'm glad that she came because it was just brilliant doing everything. But yeah, that's kind of how I planned it bit by bit. It was a bit lastminute.com, which you don't want to leave it too late because you want to book things like the bullet trains, and certain attractions get filled up really quickly. But I also incorporated a couple of tours. So a tour of Tokyo, a tour taking us to Mount Fuji, and then a restaurant and a bullet train back. Bullet train is phenomenal, Yolanda. I'm a bit of an IT geek. I just like took loads of pictures of that. I'm just like this space age spacecraft coming into the station, and
Wow.
all the trains are all on time. But yeah, all the trains are on time. I think over a year, the average lateness is 10 seconds. And I'm like, why
What?
can't we do that in London?
See,
So,
I was so impressed with the trains there over when I took the train from London to Paris. I was like,
oh,
whoa, like, yeah,
really?
because it's so much
Okay.
better than our trains. I was like, this
Are
is
they?
incredible.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I can't even
Yeah.
imagine if you were in awe of this. But okay, so I do want to know about
Mm,
your excursions in Tokyo because that sounds amazing,
mm,
like a ninja restaurant
mm.
and go-karting around. But I do want to start with Kyoto. So
Mhm,
take
mhm.
me there, like you land in Kyoto. Are you already feeling kind of like, do you have this expectation of like feeling the essence of Yasui Sensei? Like, what was it like when you first
Um,
arrive?
in Kyoto, I'd already had a sense of the energy in Japan from when I landed in Japan.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kyoto was a little bit different. There aren't too many skyscrapers in Tokyo, and they're not very high because they have an earthquake risk, which is
Mm,
something I was thinking it would be. But with Kyoto, yeah, it's a city as well. So it's busy when you first kind of get there, but it's surrounded by the sort of hills. It's kind of framed by these beautiful hills. And it is very kind of very spacious, wide roads, same in Tokyo, like probably like the freeways you have in the States. So you don't feel overcrowded.
mm,
The people were very, very friendly. I think Tokyo, they're a bit more rushing, a little bit more, not too stressed, not like London or New York or something like that. But Kyoto, they're even more chilled. Everyone was super friendly. And yeah, it was nice to kind of arrive there, and the anticipation of climbing Mount Kurama, really looking forward to that. And yeah, so it's a beautiful, beautiful city. Lots of lovely tea rooms, and matcha is a thing over there. Everything is matcha, matcha ice cream, matcha tea, matcha everything. But we did the Thousand Gate Temple, where they have all the gates kind of behind you, which was nice. And
Yeah.
I expected all these things to be really crowded. And what I love about my friend coming with me, she has the same energy as me. I get up really early, like you.
Yeah.
So where we had a 7 a.m. start for any tours and things like that, that was fine for us. So we got there early to most of the attractions, so there weren't loads and loads of people. We did the bamboo forest as well, which is beautiful. These tall, ancient bamboos that, hundreds of years old. So again, lovely energy there as well. But it was Mount Karama was the thing for me. Mount Karama was really special,
Well,
really
but before
special.
you get to that, because I feel like that's the
Yes.
cherry on top, I want to go back to, did you say it's a Thousand Gate Temple?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you may have seen it in pictures. Yeah, lots of red gates all in a row
Yes.
going up the mountain. Mm.
Yes. One of my teachers has the image of that on his
Ah.
website. Yes. But could you tell us a little bit about the temple and even some of the customs that you learned about entering
Mm.
temples and things? Because remember, I
Yes.
told you it was an interesting correlation to Kinyokoho, the dry
Mm.
bathing, why we do 3 times. So could you tell
Crossing
us
the
a little
body.
bit
Yeah.
about this? Yeah.
Yeah, so outside every Buddhist temple and Shinto shrine, there's usually some kind of fountain, and it's a fresh spring fountain. So it's coming from the earth somewhere, and it will have one ladle in it or a few wooden ladles in it. And there's two sections, one where you're collecting the water and one where you then pour the water out. So you collect the water and you wash the left hand first, then the right hand, then the left hand, and then you put some in your mouth to wash your mouth because it's symbolizing pure words when
Mm,
you're praying and things like that. Um, so that for me, and then you pour out that everything is through such etiquette that you then you straighten the ladle so the water just pours down, then you put that back for the next person. So it's a lovely cleansing ritual before the ceremony. But yeah, it reminded me of Kinnick Hall, the left, right, left. And then when you've done that, you walk up to the temple. There's areas where you kind of walk around and you're, just walking around the grounds, but there's a main prayer area. Often they don't allow cameras there and things like that, but the almost like I guess an altar is there, and you walk up to the steps. There's usually a bell that you ring as well. So you ring the bell, you clap twice. And with the clapping, the left hand stays static. So the left hand represents spirituality, which makes sense because the right side of the brain is our spiritual side.
yes.
And so this never moves. This is always present, always the same, never changes. And it's the right hand, which represents the 3D world and earth, that meets the left hand. So you clap twice, almost like a little gushal. You bow twice, and then you say whatever you want to say, your prayer or your wish or whatever you want to do from there. So the whole ritual is really beautiful to see. Everybody knows how to do this and is just doing this. And whether it's a Buddhist shrine or a Shinto shrine, you kind of do that same process. And yeah, so that was really lovely to see and then do. And yeah,
So
particularly Mount Karama.
I know, listen, you're itching to get
Mm.
to Mount Karama,
I
and
know,
I,
no,
I
no, it's
want
fine.
to, but I'm
No,
just
take your
curious and
time.
being there and with just like the different rituals like you're describing,
Mm,
did any of
mm,
those little details kind of give you more of an understanding of why we do things the way we may do in the system of Reiki, or did you see elements of the culture that you're like, this kind of reminds me of different practices or how we may practice, even, directing our mind to the hara, these sorts of things, the mindfulness of it
mm,
all. Did the culture
mm.
kind of give emphasis to any of that?
Yeah, it definitely did. I think right in everything they do, when you're eating at a restaurant, there's certain words you say. Instead of just thank you, you say itadakimasu, if I've said that right, which is basically not just thank you, as in thank you, thanks for the meal. It's thank you for everything that's gone into that meal. So it's almost like indigenous peoples have this kind of almost shamanic way of honoring the earth and nature, the sun, the seed, the person that made the bowl, the whole universe. So everything is thanked in that word,
Yeah.
which is so beautiful to kind of do. And so coming back to the gratitude piece in our Reiki precepts, it's just coming to me now, that links to that, then being really grateful for that. The kind of compassionate, everybody there was so respectful. Particularly as a a black woman in Tokyo, there was no staring, there was no touch your hair, touch it. It was just everyone was so respectful and so kind,
Yeah.
which again brings us back to the Reiki principles, giving people their space. And so there were many things that kind of reminded us of what we do in our Reiki practice, but that mindfulness as well, the way everybody does things in a really delicate way. I went to a tea ceremony in Kyoto, and the person who did the tea ceremony, um, it said it isn't just about the tea, and the matcha tea. It's about the gathering. It's about spending time with other
Mm.
people and your family and your loved ones. So it could be tea, it could be in the morning having a coffee together as a family. It's that moment of just pausing and connecting with everybody before you kind of rush off into your day. So everything almost has a purpose, you could say,
Yeah.
in how they do things. And yeah, it's just in that culture, everything is there. But it did remind me a lot of the mindfulness that we're kind of asked to kind of think about sometimes when we're doing things, getting really present, and that kindness and compassion and gratitude really for everything we're doing. But
Yeah.
everything is done so delicately. No one is slouching and just roughly doing. They eat a meal, then they clean up after themselves, whereas we would just leave everything on the table and take it from there
Yeah.
and think about the next person that's coming to sit down and eat that meal. Yeah, everything is deliberate. Everything is on purpose. Everything is with consideration.
You remind
So
me of
yeah.
the interconnectedness that is spoken about often within the system, even with you saying the way of thanking is to thank every aspect of what went into the
Mm,
meal. And then imagine that, like, wow, if it was part of our culture, like here in the West, to have very mindful moments of stopping and pausing to really connect with each
yes.
other. Because now, especially with our devices and just the busyness of our minds
Mm,
and the world,
mm,
just the information overload, I don't think it's as common for people to like stop and deeply connect with each other, which just as a teaser, everyone, we're going to be talking to Gwen about spiritual relationships in the third episode.
mm,
But I just imagining that and the way you're describing it sounds
mm,
like a reconnection of sorts that so
mm.
many of us, I think, need and may
Yeah.
not even realize.
Yeah, yeah. I think even the Shintoism, which we think it's separate, like you're either Shinto or you're Buddhist, but many people are both.
Mm,
They practice Buddhism, but they're also brought up with Shinto practices and festivals and ceremonies. And the Shinto religion is all about connecting to Franz Steiner talks about it a lot, that the kami within us, the spirit within us, the God within us, but everything has a kami God, whether
right.
it's the mountain or the water or the wind. So again, very kind of that shamanic and honoring all aspects of this universe. And so the practice is to do a lot of ceremonies, which usually include some kind of washing and cleansing to bring yourself back to connect more closely, I guess, with that spiritual energy that you have within you.
Yes.
So yeah, but the whole culture is just permeated with that. And I just
Ah,
loved it so much. Yeah.
now, it sounds incredible. And it's funny listening to you because I have had the same I don't know, like preconceived notions of what it might be like to go there. And even though
Mm,
I've heard stories from so many people, it's still, we can get into our head. And that has caused some pause because I'm like, oh, would I be able to climb Mount Karama? And would I be able to, just all the different things? Like, would I be able to get
yeah.
around okay? Like, how is this going to go? So it's
Mm,
great to hear what your process was and that it was such
mhm.
an incredible experience for you. Anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Once I got there, I mean, I was prepared anyway. So everyone was saying Google Translate is great. And also Google Maps is brilliant.
Mhm.
And so we use that a lot anyway to get around, just as we would do here, or, wherever
Yeah.
we are and we don't know where we're going. Exactly the same. Get a SIM card and then you're okay. So yeah, just being prepared for all of that. But yeah, when I did get there, the skyscrapers, as I said, weren't as tall. The streets were really kind of clean and clear and wide and spacious.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was completely unfounded. And so that's why it's important to actually go and experience these things, I think, for yourself. Just
Yes.
go and see. But very pleasantly surprised at how friendly the people were, happy to help. They wanted to practice their English as well. So many characters and the fashion, and it's just, yeah,
Oh, I can't
amazing.
wait to hear about Tokyo. But okay,
Yeah.
so even that
Mm.
before this is the last question, I promise you, and then
No,
Mount
it's
Karama is
fine.
coming.
It's
Was there a
fine.
difference even in that? Like, in different places, like even in different countries, you go to different
Mm,
cities and there's such a different kind of texture or feeling
mm,
city to city
mm,
within the same country
mm.
often. Was there a bit of a contrast between Tokyo and Kyoto, or even like fashion wise, what you noticed, or did it feel kind of the same?
Yeah, Tokyo felt very more hip and trendy and lots going on, very buzzy, very busy. And as I said, some people were rushing and had time for you, and some really didn't have time for you because they're used to tourists. But Kyoto felt a lot calmer, a lot more traditional. You have a
Mm,
district called the Gion district, which is where you see the geisha girls that you're not really meant to look at or touch. They have a lot of respect for them. But it's very traditional buildings as well, the old style wooden buildings. And everywhere you go, anywhere you take your shoes off when you're kind of going into certain places. So it feels more traditional, I think, in Kyoto. Even in the city, you'll turn a corner and suddenly it's like an old feeling, an old town kind of feel to it,
yeah,
which takes you back in time, which I really love. So it's like the dark wood and not so much lighting, but it's still very kind of zen
yeah,
and beautiful. So, and lots of lovely streams everywhere. There's lots of freshwater streams, particularly in Kyoto, that you're going on a walk and there's these lovely waterfalls or streams to kind of refresh yourself in if you need to. So the energy was different. Overarching, I feel for Japan, there is this higher frequency there, I
hmm
feel, and when we can feel it when we arrive. But Tokyo was a little bit busier, but not as busy as London. And Kyoto was much calmer, as I said, much more spacious, and yeah, you felt like you decompressed a lot when you were there. Yeah, a bit
It's
more
really
spiritual.
interesting when you just said that the overarching, kind of feel. It reminded me of
Mm.
like a collective consciousness. And if I would
Yeah,
imagine, I mean, how could that not be felt if you were immersed in a culture that had so much regular practice of mindfulness and it being infused into everything that you do, that must be an interesting environment, feeling wise.
yeah, yeah. And when you think the country's been around for thousands of years,
Yeah.
so that is completely ingrained in everything they do and what they teach the children at school and the respect and all of that is in there.
hmm
Um, yeah, it's just part of their whole culture, but it goes back, so many places we're visiting, the temples have been around for 1,000 years.
Right.
And yeah, we'll talk about that later, but yeah, it goes back so far, which means it's deeply ingrained in
Yes.
everybody. And they honor those traditions and keep up those traditions and hand down the traditions. And they still like going to temple and, going to, a shrine. They still kind of do that. It's very normal and common for people to be doing that as opposed to maybe in Christianity, it's less and less and less people
Yeah.
kind of practicing those faiths now. So, but yeah, definitely deeply ingrained,
That's
which you can
incredible.
feel. You can definitely feel that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess how could you not, I mean,
Mm,
not just even from the direct experience of what it may be like to learn the cultural
mm,
norms and practice them as well out of respect. But just again, the energy of that, what that must feel like. I
mm,
mean, that I
mm.
can't even imagine. Okay, so Mount Karama. So was there a whole day that you had set aside from this? And
Yes.
what is that like? Do you have to book a tour for that? What is happening on this mountain? Give us a
Okay. This is very,
visual. Yes.
yeah. So there was some divine intervention there. So excuse me, one of my students, Izumi, is from Japan. She's one of my Reiki master students, and she just happened to be in Japan the time I was going to be there as well. And so she was going to be in Kyoto. She was mainly by the coast and was going to spend a few days in Kyoto. So we agreed that we'd meet up. And she found a Reiki master teacher, Yusui Reiki master teacher in Japan, who's also trained in Jikiden, to give us a tour of the mountain and take us up the mountain. And can't thank her enough for that. So yes, we were there. We were initially kind of saying, okay, can we, I think it was meant to be all day, like a long 5 hour trip. And we were kind of tired. And we were saying, oh, can we just do 3 hours and we'll go back? We were like, and she was like, well, there's so much to see, you will need them. Like, okay, let's do the 5 hours. And, I can see why now. But I was still at that point expecting this rugged mountain, just dirt, nothing else. And, as we started going up the mountain, every so often there's a shrine or there's a temple. It's very lush and green, Yolanda. It reminded me of St. Lucia a little bit. Beautiful high mountains, of some deer there, tall trees, beautiful views across, the land, I don't know what else to call that. Beautiful views of other sort of hills and mountains in the distance. So although parts of it were pretty steep, it was a really lovely climb. And I just found myself energized the higher I got. I was a little bit out of breath, but I was also really energized by the energy of the mountain.
Yeah.
There was a shrine that we stopped at. One of the first shrines was dedicated to a lady who was really disappointed with her husband. The story goes, he was going out, leaving her for long periods of time, getting drunk. And so she came to this shrine and she prayed. And then when she went back, everything changed with her husband. So it's known as like a little love shrine. And people are provided with paper and envelopes to kind of write their little message. And you tie it to the tree there. So this tree, lots of little beautiful messages on it, where people are leaving their wishes behind, hoping for love or to find love. There's a lovely poem there that this lady wrote, which I can't remember all of it now, but our guide read that to us. It's written in Japanese. So even that started off the energy. It was like, God, this place is just so beautiful.
Yeah.
And then we came across a shrine that Mikayasu was said to have prayed at, stopped at. And, it was just such an idyllic day. The wind was blowing gently. I was sitting inside. There's this canopy in there swaying, sound bowls, just everything set up in the
Wow.
shrine. Beautiful bell on the outside. So we do the thing and everything and the ceremony, the cleansing before we go in there. And the peace was just incredible, just being in there and sitting in there and looking around and thinking, Mikaisu could have sat here.
Yeah.
He could have sat here 100 years ago. But yeah, we kind of did that. We climbed up further, and there was another spot where Mikaisu was said to have meditated. There wasn't a building there necessarily, but just a space in his honor and some slabs and things. But the view was wonderful. And some other tourists came along and they were giving each other Reiki there. We sat and we did a mawashi, so we held hands and just sent that energy round with our guide. Just kind of, she's got a beautiful voice. She started singing a really beautiful song to us. And then we chanted the Reiki principles. They chanted it in Japanese and I repeated it. My friend repeated it. But you could just feel the energy and you just felt like you were just being purified the higher and higher you went.
Hmm.
Um, so that was so nice just to spend some time there and sit and contemplate. And then we climbed a little bit higher and went to Karama Temple itself. And, there are many different buildings that make up the temples. The temples are all so beautiful, and you can go in there. There's a little shop in there selling incense and just little spiritual things that you can buy just to help support them. Little cherry blossom trees around, and a lovely big circle in front of the temple that people were queuing up to stand in and just feeling the energy.
Wow.
So I took my turn at that. But again, this is all Mount Karama. The views
Hmm.
were just incredible again. But the energy there was really, for me, it was really strong. And just kind of our guide took us to a secret, well, not really secret, but there's a place underneath the temple that not many people go to. And so she took us down there. It's kind of like a vault, and there were loads of little vases. You know those little Chinese vases, maybe Chinese doll shape. You know, when you have the doll within a doll within a doll. They look like that kind of shape, but it was a vase, mini vase, like a mini vase maybe. And people had pieces of their hair in the vase. So you would put your hair in the vase. You're still alive, but a
Yeah.
piece of you is on Mount Karama.
Yes.
And so, and I think it's the water god, Mount Karama. Don't quote me on that. But a piece of you was in that energy, which was just amazing to see. But she also showed us three gods, which she said represented the three symbols, three Shinto gods. And, it was, one was kind of more feminine, masculine, one represented, the feminine one represented Seiki, the masculine one was more Shokugeki. And then everything was written in Japanese and she was reading it to us. But I recognized Dakomyo on there. And this temple is almost 1,000 years old.
Wow.
Like maybe 800, it's been around a long time. Because I was also under the false premise that there was nothing there until Mikao Usui got there. And
Uh,
then that's why people would go there. I
yeah.
didn't realize there was so much there. And that's why he went there, because there were all these beautiful temples. So it made sense to do his pilgrimage there. But this vault is just, yeah, it's just amazing. It's all dark and candles are lighting it. But to see Reiki come to life in that way with the symbol that I recognize, and oh my God, that's Daikon. She was talking about it and telling us, representing the sun and the moon and things like that. The moon, as we know, the feminine, the sun, the masculine.
Yes.
So that it really brought it to life for me just to see that. And see that that's probably where Mikao Usui took it from. He was carrying on that tradition of respecting this greatest light, this great bright light. Um, so that was really special to have someone who can actually take us to this place. There was nobody else there when we were down there, and then come back up again to the tourist area. But there weren't loads and loads of tourists. But yeah, I was actually just pinching myself every time. It's like, this is just amazing. To have that honor was so lovely. But yeah, Mount Karama, very, very special. Beautiful waterfalls again, everywhere that you go. So there's a mixture of Shinto and Buddhist temples as you go up the mountain. And people stop and worship at different shrines and temples depending on what they wanted. So each one represented a different thing. Like that one was love, something else might be fertility, something else might be, I don't know, abundance. So
Yeah.
it was nice that all those things were there. Um, and yeah, so we had a wonderful time, just taking our time, just going to each area. And I'm so grateful that we didn't rush. Our guide knew, Neu, her name is Neu. And she was so knowledgeable. She's been going to Mount Karama since she was 4. Her mother, who's a Reiki master, was taking her there. And she always comes there maybe once a month when she's feeling really stressed with her daughter, and she's a single mom. She will go to Mount Karama just to reconnect again and come back again.
It's
Uh,
interesting hearing you describe this. I can't help but think about, like Reiju or an attunement. And again, just the frequency of the environment and why so many people go there. And if you have this resonance, kind of isolated into this space and all throughout the mountain of people going to meditate or to pray or whatever it is, it it doesn't seem odd then that, Yusui Sensei would have had such a mystical experience there, given the energy of the place itself anyway. So I wonder if like people that maybe if you do take time to meditate there, if you would feel like a different kind of, like a different kind of resonance of just being in that environment while directing your mind. Did you all get a chance to do that?
yeah, yeah. Because when we sat to do the Mawashi meditation,
Mm,
that was powerful. I
yeah.
felt like we were just spinning around and going up in the air. So yeah, and there were other people on the mountain, maybe giving themselves Reiki or giving their friends Reiki. Some weren't coming for Reiki, some were coming because they're part of the Shinto religion or they're Buddhist. So there's so much prayer going on there. So the frequency is very, very high, and we're high up.
Right.
But mountains are revered, they're seen as real spiritual places anyway. I guess because of that apex at the top. but yeah, we when we sat to do the mawashi, I don't think I wanted to stop. It was just incredible, and it was silent. It was quiet. There wasn't too
Yeah.
much noise. And then to have Nayu sing with her beautiful voice, um, yeah, it was. Yeah, I can just see it like I'm there now. It was just
Yeah.
wonderful. So but you feel that energy as soon as you step on the mountain. Even the whole before you get there, I'm trying to remember there's a Kifune. There's a village, I guess, that's popped up surrounding it. People don't live there as such. There's more kind of shops and things like that. And then there's this lovely stream and waterfall. But Kifune, it's called Kifune Mountain as well, that then leads up to Karama Mountain. And that also is very spiritual and filled with shrines, very much part of the Shinto religion, but that is said to be the source of energy. The source of where energy comes from is how our guide described it to us. So even before you get to Mount Karama, you're already in that place of spiritual openness,
Hmm.
and you're going up and it's just getting more and more open. And yeah,
It sounds like
it's
almost like
just,
ascension, or again, like where we
yeah.
direct so much attention to the hara, and
Mhm.
various traditions have this idea of,
Mhm.
this like pool of energy being at the base of our being. And then as
Mhm.
we awaken or purify and these things, and that, like even with the Reiki kanji, and then the steam rising. Anyway, this is
Yes,
all very fascinating, Gwen.
I
Um,
love that analogy.
No, I'm like, wow, this sounds incredible. So the memorial stone,
Mm.
where is that relative, like within the mountain? Is it in the middle, at the top? And what was that like getting
No, the
there?
memorial stone is outside Tokyo. It's not in
Oh,
Kyoto. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
wow.
So with Mount Karama, it was more about the fact that Nikaisu had spent his 21 days there. But the memorial stone is actually just outside Tokyo. For us, but from where we were staying, it was about 40 minutes on the metro.
Hmm.
The metro is really well serviced and really on time and everything. So Google Maps told us where we needed to go. And we went to, it's a little, I guess, area of Tokyo that's kind of on the suburbs, you could
Hmm.
say. So not many tourists there, mainly locals. And we found our way using Google Maps. And when you get there, there's this massive big bell. So it's a temple, but also a burial ground as well. So you walk in to the gates. Anytime you walk through a gate in Japan, you bow. You kind of do that first. So we walked in, this beautiful big bell there. And luckily, the same lady who took the picture that I was showing my students standing next to the memorial stone has a link to her website where she just has a blog about it, which gives you some instructions on what to look out for. And she actually had the number of the memorial stone there, so we could
Oh,
find it on the map. So we looked at the map and we started walking through. There's a big, beautiful temple there. And there's also a smaller temple, which was quite interesting in terms of the symbol it had on it, which was a swastika symbol.
hmm.
And I don't know how I know, but I talk about it sometimes when we're talking about symbols in Reiki 2 and how
Yeah,
it's more the focus on the symbol that gives it the energy. And I give the example of the swastika, which was, I guess, overtaken by Hitler and made to be something evil.
right.
But it's been in the Buddhist religion and Hindu religion for thousands of years, and it symbolizes prosperity and good fortune. And so this was on the front of the building. And I had to explain this to my friend because she was really
Yeah.
surprised. She's like, ah, but that's what it means traditionally.
Yes.
And then there's another beautiful big temple, which was closed at the time. And then we started walking towards the burial ground. And luckily we saw the groundsman there because I think we still didn't quite know where we were going. And he was like, "Okay, so we're like, yes. And so he took us straight there. Nobody else there. Nobody else
Wow.
in the whole grounds, just me, my friend, and the groundsman. And that literally, as I started walking up to it, I can feel it now, almost brought me to tears just to see it behind this kind of tree. I'm tempted to say it's like a sycamore tree, but I don't know my trees. It's a beautiful tree. And this big memorial stones, just standing really proud and strong in this graveyard amongst the blue sky. It was a nice sunny day. and there was the Chiba Memorial Stone to for his family. So his family are also buried there, and some fresh flowers. So somebody's obviously keeping that up, which is lovely. But yeah, my hands are getting hot now just thinking about it. I don't know if you can feel it, but yeah, it's just huge. You're looking at it, and you can see the writing on it. The stone is probably about this thick, maybe, and way, way taller than me. I took a picture of it. So I don't know, maybe 12 foot high. I don't know. But just to sit down for a little bit and look at that. And as I said, nobody else there, just being my friend and the wind and the birds and the butterflies, and just to maybe say a little prayer at some point, placing my hand on my heart, a bit of Reiki. The energy was so strong. And it was like the wind was talking to me. It was just like blowing and just making everything just feel good and cleansing. Um, yeah, I took a lot of pictures there and films there, and I do need to make a proper video for YouTube there. But it was, yeah, it was like a dream come true to feel like I finally arrived. And it was lovely to have my friend there because she could take that picture for me that I always
Yes.
wanted to show my students. But, my friend isn't attuned to Reiki or anything. She's Christian normally, she prays, but she could really appreciate the energy there and the beauty of that place. But very privileged, really, to get to go there. We found it really easily as well. And then to spend as much as we long wanted there. We spent quite a long time there,
Yeah.
just sitting and yeah, it was just wonderful,
Well, a
wonderful.
couple of things, Gwen. So one with the symbols, I've also given that example before.
Oh, really?
And I, yes,
Mm,
and I think it's very interesting when we think about the intention,
mm,
um, the connection that we have to any symbol. So I've
mm,
used
mm,
that example. I've used the example of the cross, like all different kinds of symbols around the board. But I think it gives people even a more of an understanding of the symbols that we use within the system,
mhm,
having an energy, having a consciousness, that it's
mm,
not just this thing that we draw, but really
mhm,
um, how the intelligence of the symbol really can expand on our consciousness and our relation to what we may have been taught that it means or not. Yeah,
mhm,
I think that's incredible. But I
mhm,
have a question because you've mentioned these giant bells a few
mm.
times. Do you know if there's a specific significance to the bells? Is it the sound or?
I don't, but I imagine it would be the sound, just kind of. But yeah, some are smaller. There was a giant bell there, the
Mhm.
grave, the memorial stone, but most of the temples had a bell, maybe about this size, and then you would a rope coming down, and you would ring it a couple of times. So
Yeah,
I'm not sure what it symbolizes. I'd have to look in. I don't want to hazard a guess, but I'm not sure. So I'd have
yeah.
to think. I mean, we know sound is very powerful at breaking up energy and setting energy, but it might also be a I'm arriving thing. And so, yeah, but um, there was a bell at every Shinto temple, particularly, and some of the Buddhist mosques as well.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'll have to get
Very
back to you on
interesting. Yeah, no,
that.
let me know. So, I mean, it
Mm,
does sound like an incredible time in Kyoto. I mean, you really
mm,
did paint a beautiful picture for us. But
oh,
now,
thank you.
and I've spoken to a few people who have gone
Mm,
to Kyoto, and I never
mm.
heard that the memorial stone was somewhere else. So I always thought it was on Mount Karama. So thanks for that update.
That's all right. You go to
Um,
the wrong place.
yeah, really. But then you did mention in the beginning, going to these interesting places in Tokyo. So could you tell us a little bit about your time in Tokyo and some of the adventures that you had there?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so we did a lot. We stayed in some really lovely, beautiful hotels as well, very zen. And I like that we were able to get to grips with the metro pretty quickly because yeah, you don't need anything else once you kind of get to grips with the metro. And it's fairly easy to understand the system. And yeah, there's lots of displays on the train and stuff like that. So it was nice. But even the metros were interesting in terms of how people are. They don't talk on the tube. Like we gossip on the metro, we talk, we chatter. It's pretty silent, very quiet, unless it's like the tourists come on and they start talking. So they have this peace and this respect for other people's space and time. There's no loud music playing. No one's talking on the phone really loudly. So even that was an experience in itself, getting used to the metro, but loving that they were frequent, they were on time, they tap in and out. Like, I don't know if you have that in the States, but we tap in and out. We have an Oyster card in the UK. They have a
Yeah,
Silica
some
card, tap
cities.
in and out.
Yes.
Yeah, so they have all of that. So really simple to get around. Um, but yeah, we had a lot of fun in Tokyo. My friend likes the shopping, so there's a massive shopping mall. One of my other students told me about Cree called Don Quixote, and it's like, I don't know, stories high, multiple stories high, just filled with stuff. So for me, I found it a bit overwhelming, but my friend loved it, and it's great for gifts and souvenirs and stuff like that. But next to that, you get some quieter shops and smaller shops. But yeah, the shopping was really interesting. I didn't do Zara because I knew it'd be game over if I walked into Zara, but I hear it's like 30% cheaper. There you go. But yeah, we did. My friend booked for us the go-karting. So she had a go-kart, I had a go-kart, we had a guide, and he was just guiding us through Tokyo. There's a massive crossing called Shibuya Crossing where hundreds of people cross at the same time. And it's just fascinating. It's just so funny. And people are doing funny things and they're filming, but there's a massive load of people kind of there. So we kind of drove all around there and all through there. So it's nice to be able to say I drove in Tokyo. A little bit scared. I was like, oh my God, but it was all right going quite fast there. So that was good fun. And we dressed up, we did it. We did it. We did the whole. You have these outfits, which are like, I don't know, Disney characters or something. Can't remember what I was, but we just dressed up in these outfits, and then drove around waving at people. They were taking pictures of us, and so it was a good laugh. It was
Yes.
good fun, and our guide was really funny, so it was good. The other thing we did was a ninja restaurant, which I loved actually. So I'm really glad she booked that. It was like a speakeasy.
Okay.
It reminded me of a speakeasy. So do you remember in the 20s? No, do you
Yes.
remember? You're so old,
Well, no,
yes.
but we have speakeasy bars here. Yeah, so it's like a
Yeah.
thing that has
I know
popped
you
back
weren't around.
around. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know you're not that old. But yeah, so in the 1920s with prohibition where they couldn't have alcohol, then
Right.
these secret alcohol bars would pop up. So it's similar to that, but it wasn't about alcohol, it was just food. And so it was really hard to find. And it was behind this door, which was posing as a barbershop front in the end. And this ninja came out and, brought us in and this sort of magic tricks and smoke and brought us in to this kind of darkened restaurant, this really nice vibe. And the food was all kind of, I guess, a la carte. It was like really beautifully designed and constructed, and things that you thought weren't edible were edible. And then he'd set things on fire and do various tricks. And it was like a 7-course meal in the end.
Wow.
It was just amazing. But mine was all vegan. So I was like, yes, happy. I think my friend is vegan as well. So we were both vegan meals. But that was good fun as well. We had a great time there, but we'd never have found it. We had to ask so many people. Even Google Maps couldn't find that one. But that was really good to kind of do
Was
that.
there a
And the food.
performance?
And not a big performance, but more the person serving you would kind of do some things with a sword. We pose with these ninja swords. It was just, yeah, it was just fun. It was amazing. So I would recommend that for sure. So yeah, that was great to do as well. We did, there's a couple of really tall buildings, like viewing buildings, like Sky View. There's quite a few in there in Tokyo Tower. So we did that as well, just to get this kind of bird's eye view of the city, which was really beautiful to see as well. And what else did we do in Tokyo? We did so much. What I was surprised at though was the restaurants were, and I wasn't expecting this, but then if I think about it, it makes sense. Is if you go to Bali or Thailand, the restaurants are really cheap, right? You can
Mm,
have a 3-course meal and it's hardly anything. But I wasn't expecting that in Tokyo. I was expecting Tokyo to be like London prices for food as well. But it's really cheap. So
yeah.
everywhere we went to some really nice restaurants, some normal cafes, went everywhere. And we would have a 3-course meal. It'd be like between £10, I don't know what's that, $12 for a 3-course meal. So really, really cheap to eat out there. Really
Wow.
cheap. Really surprised.
Oh my gosh.
Um, yeah, everywhere has these convenience stores, 7-Elevens. I think you have
Mhm,
them in the States, is where it
mhm.
started. You can get a smoothie there as well, which is nice. So I can
It's
get a
it's
fruit
not the
smoothie.
same here. Just so
Oh,
you know.
really?
Oh no. I have seen online people posting 7-Eleven in Japan and even
Yes.
fast food places like McDonald's in Japan versus
Mm.
Italy and here. we're really being gypped over here, okay?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it
I
was
think it's the same
beautiful
here.
over there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. You can get little sushi and you can get the a smoothie drink from, it's just the fresh fruit that's frozen and you put it in this machine and have that. So, that was really lovely to do. Well, we did the tour of Tokyo, took us to some beautiful parks. Oh, and what is in Tokyo is the Meiji Emperor's Shrine
Mm.
as well. And that was wonderful. That was one of the first places I went to. And that was, a real connection with Reiki there because we know how much Mikao Sui talked about the Meiji
Did
Emperor.
you know the book has been published? So,
No.
yeah, so my teacher, our Java sensei, or well, I
Mm.
shouldn't say our Java sensei, he said that's
Don't call me
Frank, our Java
that.
petter. Yes. He just recently, I think in this past month, he had the book published of the 125 waka of the Meiji, yeah,
Oh,
emperor. So you should
wonderful.
go look on Amazon right after this and get your
Yes.
copy. Yeah.
Yeah, I will do. Because
Yes.
they had one of the poems on a really big board, one of the Waka poems on the
Mhm.
board. And there was lots of barrels of wine there that people have gifted, sake, wine, and you would go into the temple again, you bow at the gate. The gate was massive.
Yeah.
But I think that's where I had a really lovely spiritual experience because, again, when you go into the shrine and the temple area, people are walking around, there's lots of lovely things to see. And again, there's some paper and envelope to write your wishes on. Every time you get a chance to do that, you're doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Writing the wishes on and hanging that up. And then you would go to the shrine bit, which again, no cameras, it's kind of separated off, and we would do our ceremony and did my prayer there. And before I went up, I had all these things in my mind I was going to pray for that I wanted, if that makes sense. And I got up there and I just felt immense gratitude. That's all that flooded my whole body. I just felt so grateful
Yeah.
as I looked at the shrine itself and the big golden statues. And all I felt was gratitude. So my prayer was just one of gratitude.
Yes.
So that was really touching to kind of to do, and then see some of the Shinto priests in training, walking around, and it was just lovely. That was so beautiful. Yeah.
Were you
So yeah,
able to
definitely.
witness any chanting while you were there in any of the temples?
We did at Mount Kurama. So one of the temples was a main Shinto temple. So they were chanting at the time we were there, which was just resonating throughout the air. It was beautiful. But that's also where they have a kind of fortune telling thing. So you get a piece of paper, and on that paper, to reveal what's on there, there's a fortune, but to reveal it, you have to put it in the stream, in the water, and then it comes alive, and you see a particular symbol and the writing in Japanese, and then you look up what it means. It's all modern now. You have a QR code, and it tells you what it means. And if you don't like it, you can leave it there wrapped up, or you can take it with you. I think I left mine there. But yeah, so that was nice because there was a live ceremony going on there, and there was the praying and the chanting, and you could see the priest in his garments, and so I hadn't seen that before. So that was wonderful to see that for
Wow.
sure. Yeah,
I have
yeah. So
one
they're
last
active.
question for you. You
Mm.
mentioned the temple at the very beginning of the
Mm.
Thousand Gates, but it sounds like a lot of different temples you went to, there were
Yeah,
gates of sorts. So do
yeah.
the gates represent anything? Are they like walking through like different dimensions or portals or
It's sort of like that, yeah. But definitely you have to bow at that gate, but it sets the entrance to the temple. You're moving into something spiritual.
mm,
So yeah, definitely it does have that kind of meaning of, okay, we're now moving into the spiritual space.
yeah.
And we have to have that respect and honor. The exact meaning, again, I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but there were gates. Yeah, the gates were there outside all of the temples and shrines.
It's interesting
And
too that I imagine because if you have to pause and bow before entering each, it also gives you a time to be like in the in between.
yeah, I
You
guess it
know,
does.
yeah, I want
Yeah.
to look that up. Huh.
Yeah, definitely. I have to
Yes.
look it up as well. But it reminds me of Bali, which had similar gates, but the gates were they're usually made of stone, but some were proper, I guess square gates, and some were just two stone statues or things either side.
Hmm.
There was something around the gates though that our guide told us where we were at Mankarama, there was a fox with its mouth closed on one side and a fox with its mouth open on the other side. Again, I think that was representing kind of yin and yang, some, that
Mm,
kind of energy thing.
right.
Um, yeah, so everything was symbolic. Everything probably had a meaning
I
that I
know
need to
this
kind
is
of
kind
look
of
at.
random, but it's just popping in my now. Have you been to Egypt yet?
I have,
You
yeah,
have.
yeah,
Okay.
several
So is
times,
this
yeah.
similar to, I've only seen the pictures. I do want to go there one day.
Oh,
Um, but the giant statues or even the pillars for the temples
yeah,
there, is there like a similar,
yeah.
I wonder if,
I think in terms of it guarding the temple, being the guardians of the
yeah,
temple and the Sphinx, and yeah, I guess it's similar. Yeah, anywhere sacred has the guards outside,
right.
usually in animal form,
Hmm.
whether it's a lion or there it was the fox. But yeah,
But
so
even the
yeah, the
pillars, like I
teachings
wonder
there.
if those also represent gates of sorts.
Yeah, they probably do. Yeah, I'm
Huh.
trying to think in Egypt. Yeah, the pillars were more on temples, but I'm thinking more about the pyramids.
Yes.
And even when I went to Valley of the Kings, it was more pyramids as opposed to pillars that you might
Mm,
see in Greece or Italy,
hmm.
more Roman. But yeah, every
Interesting.
place had some kind of guardian at the entrance that had
Oh,
been
we're
sort of a
gonna
bit
have to do
spiritual
a
like that.
deep dive on this, Gwen.
Yeah,
Well, I have to tell you,
find out what
I'm
it means.
so thankful. One, I have been waiting to hear about your Japan story. So, everyone
Mm.
listening, I've known about this for a while. I've just been waiting for this conversation to hear about it. So, I'm very thankful that you came to share with us here because I know so many people have a curiosity about
Mm.
going to Kyoto. I just
Mhm.
want to let everyone know before we go, this week, we also have a brand new podcast that features Gwen that is all about love and the spiritual connection to these relationships that we're all encountering.
Mm.
So, could you talk a little bit about the podcast, which will actually launch this Friday?
Yes, yes. So the my series is called Ready for Authentic Love, and the podcast that's going live on Friday is premiering on Friday is finding self in your single season. So it really is coming from my understanding of the importance of that phase in between relationships
Yeah,
to heal ourselves, to have compassion for ourselves, to love ourselves, and really look at who we're being, who we want to be in and out of relationships.
yeah,
Um, just to, yeah, because relationships are a mirror, basically. So, but also what I'm emphasizing in there is that the work doesn't stop when we get in a relationship, it does continue.
yes,
So the first episode is really about sharing my journey, which still continues. And then because I do believe that I think we all have a theme. Maybe we choose before we come here. And I
yes,
think I chose relationships for one
yes.
reason. It's like relationships. I want that to be my theme. And I've learned a lot and still have more to learn and process and understand. And so it's sharing that. And also, I guess, coming from the coaching side, having coached a lot of my clients around this as well. So it's kind of sharing what's come up for me around being in a relationship and who we're being and who we're calling in and how we're looking at that. But for me, understanding that the purpose really is for us to be as authentic as we can in our relationships. And that is a process, that's a growth journey in itself.
Mm,
And whether it ever gets complete, I don't know, because we all have situations that put us back in our wounds a little bit.
yeah.
So yeah, that's what the podcast is going to be about on Friday. Just more sort of just guidance, insights, epiphanies. There'll be some journaling prompts as well towards the end for people to have a look and reflect for themselves on that. But it is just introducing that whole topic of being ready, getting ready for authentic love, if that's what you want, if you're looking to deepen your love relationships because perhaps they've been really superficial before, or maybe you've attracted the wrong person over and over again, a type of person over and over again, or you've
Mm,
been a certain way yourself where you've run away from relationships over and over again.
yeah.
But it will also be beneficial for people who are in relationships who are looking to be different in that relationship too,
Yeah.
and looking to see things differently, see themselves and their partner differently. So it will suit both types, I think. So yeah,
That's
so
really
thank you.
exciting because, again, big topic for all of us. And we have so many different seasons and phases and stages
Mm.
within the cycles of relationship. And I love that you're starting with the season of us being single and what that is really about. So, everyone, be sure to tune in to the new podcast with Gwen. It's on Awakening Airwaves. And also, with that, be sure you go to our new website called thereikiclass.com. And if you are interested in working with Gwen, there's a listing there of her upcoming classes. She has Reiki classes. She does transformational life coaching. So many ways to work with her. And you can also go to her website, myspiritualbutterfly.com. So that is it for the trip to Japan. Thank you so much, my love. And be
You're
sure to join
welcome.
us on Wednesday, where Gwen and I are going to talk about psychic Reiki. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Thank you, my love, for this first hour.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much, Yolanda. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, beautiful alchemist. First of all, we have to thank Gwen. Thank you so much for taking time to have a 3 hour conversation with me. But thank you for sharing your experiences with us about your trip to Kyoto and Tokyo and all of the great insights you gave for any of us who are planning to go in the future. And don't forget, you can learn more about Gwen and her work at her website, myspiritualbutterfly.com. You can also see her as a featured teacher on thereikiclass.com, our new platform that features Reiki teachers, practitioners, classes, events, resources, all the things that will support you on your path. Go to thereikiclass.com. And Gwen is also one of the contributors on the new podcast platform, Awakening Airwaves, where she will be talking about relationships and spirituality. And her episode will air this Friday, June 20th. So be sure to check that out. So thank you so much for being a part of this community. If you're watching the interview on YouTube, please follow the channel, subscribe to the channel. If you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, please follow Reiki Radio, give us a 5-star review so that other seekers and healers can find this content as well. It is a free way of just supporting us and expanding community and helping to continue Reiki education for so many healers and practitioners out there. So that is all for today, my loves. We will see you Wednesday. And remember to always journey in love.